Hook. The day they took everything. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you would have signed anything they put in front of you? I did, and that one decision cost me my home, my business, my reputation, and almost every person I cared about. The strange part, the people who did it weren't strangers. They were the people I called family. For months, everyone believed I was the greedy one. They whispered my name behind closed doors. Friends stopped answering my calls. Even neighbors looked at me with disappointment. I wanted to scream the truth. But I stayed quiet, because I knew something they didn't. Lies can run fast, but the truth never gets tired. And when it finally catches up, no one can stop it. By the time justice arrived, the same people who laughed at me were begging for a second chance. Chapter 1: A life I was proud of. 3 years earlier, my life looked almost perfect. My name is Daniel. I wasn't rich, but I was proud of what I had built. After working for nearly 15 years, I finally opened my own home renovation company. Every dollar came from long days, sleepless nights, and countless sacrifices. My wife, Emily, always told me she believed in my dream. "You work harder than anyone I know," she would say with a smile. Hearing those words made every difficult day worth it. My younger brother, Ryan, had recently lost his job. Without thinking twice, I invited him to work with me. "Family comes first," I told him. He hugged me. I'll never forget this. Looking back now, those were the biggest lies I never questioned. Ryan learned quickly. Within months, he was helping manage clients, paperwork, and schedules. I trusted him so much that I gave him access to almost everything. Bank accounts, business files, customer contracts. If someone had warned me that trust could become a weapon, I probably wouldn't have believed them. Chapter 2: Small signs I ignored. Looking back, the warning signs were everywhere. Ryan suddenly started buying expensive clothes. He showed up in a brand new truck. Whenever I asked where the money came from, he laughed. I finally learned how to save. It sounded believable. Emily defended him every single time. "You're worrying too much. Ryan deserves nice things. You've been under too much stress." Maybe she was right. Or maybe I wanted her to be right. Then clients began acting strangely. One customer asked me why our prices had suddenly increased. I was confused. "We never raised your price." He looked just as confused. "Ryan told me you approved it." Another client said Ryan had asked for cash payments instead of bank transfers. "That wasn't our policy." When I confronted Ryan, he smiled calmly. It was just easier for the customer. Everything always had an explanation. Every question had an answer. Every doubt disappeared, at least for a while. Chapter 3: The worst day of my life. One rainy Monday morning, I arrived at the office early. Something felt wrong. The front door was locked. The lights were off. I thought maybe everyone was running late. Then my phone rang. It was our landlord. "Daniel, we need to talk." My stomach dropped. He explained that months of rent hadn't been paid. Months. I couldn't understand it. I had transferred every payment to Ryan because he handled the business accounts. I rushed to the bank. The manager looked at my account and frowned. The balance was almost empty. Thousands of dollars. Gone. My hands started shaking. There had to be some mistake. There wasn't. Transfer after transfer had been approved using my account. Legally, everything appeared to be authorized. I couldn't breathe. Everything I had spent years building was disappearing right in front of me. And I still had no idea who was really behind it. When I got home that evening, I expected comfort. Instead, I walked into a silence that felt colder than the rain outside. Emily was sitting on the couch. Ryan was standing beside her. Neither of them looked surprised to see me. Ryan slowly folded his arms. Emily wouldn't even look me in the eyes. That's when I realized the nightmare was only beginning. The truth I never wanted to believe. Chapter 4: The betrayal I couldn't escape. The silence in the room felt heavier than anything I had ever experienced. I looked at Emily, then at Ryan. Neither of them spoke. Finally, I broke the silence. "Can someone please tell me what's going on?" Ryan let out a slow sigh, almost like he had been waiting for this moment. "Daniel, the business is over." "What are you talking about?" He reached into a folder on the table and pushed it toward me. Inside were copies of financial documents, loan agreements, and legal notices. I flipped through the pages with trembling hands. None of it made sense. Then I saw my own signature. Again, and again, and again. I froze. "I never signed these." Ryan shrugged. "That's not what the paperwork says." I looked at Emily, hoping she would finally defend me. Instead, she quietly said something that shattered me. Maybe you just don't remember. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. The woman who had stood beside me for years was looking at me like I was the problem. That hurt more than losing the business. Chapter 5, Losing Everything. The following weeks were a nightmare. Without enough money to keep the company running, projects were cancelled. Employees found new jobs. Clients stopped calling. Some believed I had mismanaged the company. Others thought I had taken their money. People who once praised my work now avoided me completely. One afternoon, I walked into my favorite coffee shop. The conversation stopped. Several people looked away. Someone whispered, "That's him." I paid for my coffee and left without saying a word. Outside, I sat alone in my car. For the first time in years, I cried, not because of the money, but because my name, something I had worked my whole life to protect, had been destroyed. Chapter 6, One small detail changed everything. A month later, I started cleaning the garage. I wasn't looking for answers. I was just trying to keep my mind busy. While opening an old storage box, I found a laptop I hadn't used in years. The battery barely worked, but when it finally turned on, I noticed something strange. My email account was still connected. There were hundreds of unread messages. Most were old business notifications. Then one email caught my attention. "Your account password has been changed successfully." The date made my heart race. It happened months before everything collapsed. But I had never changed my password. I checked the login history. Someone had been accessing my accounts from another device. Not once, not twice, dozens of times. I suddenly remembered something. Months earlier, Ryan had insisted on helping me set up my new office computer. He had asked for all my passwords. I had given them to him without a second thought. Because he was family, my hands started shaking again. This wasn't bad luck. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone had been planning this for a very long time. Chapter 7, The person no one expected. I knew I needed proof. Not guesses. Not emotions. Proof. So I contacted an old friend named Michael. He had worked in digital security for years. After hearing my story, he looked at me for a long moment. "Daniel, if what you're saying is true, there will be a trail." For several days, we carefully reviewed emails, financial records, and account activity. Then Michael stopped typing. "You need to see this." He turned the screen toward me. Several account logins came from the same internet connection. The location, Ryan's apartment. But that wasn't all. Another device kept appearing. The registered owner shocked me. Emily, my wife. I stared at the screen, hoping I had read it wrong. I hadn't. Michael quietly asked, "Did they always work together?" I couldn't answer, because deep inside, I already knew the truth. Chapter 8, The decision that changed my life. That night, I didn't confront them. I didn't call. I didn't send angry messages. For the first time since everything fell apart, I stayed completely calm. If I confronted them now, they would deny everything. They would erase evidence. They would make me look desperate. No, I had already lost too much. This time, I would be patient. I would rebuild myself quietly. And when the truth finally came out, it wouldn't need my anger. The evidence would speak for itself. As I closed my laptop, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. It contained only one sentence. "Stop asking questions, or you'll regret it." I read it twice. Then I smiled, because for the first time, they were scared. The revenge plan begins. Chapter 9, I stopped chasing them. That message stayed on my phone all night. "Stop asking questions, or you'll regret it." A few weeks earlier, it would have terrified me. Now it did the opposite. It confirmed one thing. Someone knew I was getting close to the truth. And guilty people only panic when they think they're about to be exposed. The next morning, I made a promise to myself. I wasn't going to waste another day arguing with people who had already decided to lie. I wasn't going to post online. I wasn't going to call friends to defend myself. Instead, I was going to let my actions speak. For the first time in months, I woke up with a clear goal. Not revenge fueled by anger. Justice built on facts. Chapter 10, Rebuilding from Nothing. Finding work wasn't easy. My reputation had been damaged, and many people believed the rumors. After dozens of rejected applications, an elderly contractor named Mr. Harris gave me a chance. "I don't care what people say," he told me. "I judge people by how they work." Those words meant more than he probably realized. The pay was modest, but I was grateful. Every morning I showed up early. Every evening I stayed late. Slowly, People noticed. One customer even pulled Mr. Harris aside and said, "Daniel is the hardest worker you've got." For the first time in a long while, I felt a small spark of hope. Meanwhile, Michael continued gathering evidence. Every new document painted the same picture. Money had been moved through several accounts. Fake invoices had been created. Emails had been sent from my accounts while I wasn't even in the office. The pattern was impossible to ignore. Still, we needed one final piece. Something undeniable. Something no excuse could erase. Chapter 11 Their Biggest Mistake. One afternoon, Michael called me. His voice sounded different. "Daniel, I think they slipped up." I drove straight to his office. He pointed at a folder on his desk. Ryan had recently started a new renovation company. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Then Michael showed me the client list. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Many of the customers were my former clients. The same people who had trusted my business. The same projects I had spent years building. Some of the contracts even contained wording copied directly from my original documents. Ryan hadn't just taken my money. He had built his new business using everything I had created. But there was one problem for him. He had been careless. Several digital files still contained the original creation details. My name, my company, the original dates. It was proof that those documents had existed long before his company did. For the first time, I allowed myself to smile. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because the truth was finally impossible to hide. Chapter 12 The Trap Closed. Rather than confronting Ryan, we stayed quiet. Michael introduced me to a lawyer who specialized in business fraud and financial disputes. The lawyer reviewed every document, every email, every bank record. When he finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is much stronger than I expected." He advised us to remain patient. "We don't need dramatic accusations," he said. "We need the facts to reach the right people." Over the next few weeks, official requests were sent for additional records. Banks provided transaction histories. Service providers confirmed account logins. Former employees shared statements about unusual instructions they had received from Ryan. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Then something unexpected happened. One of Ryan's former assistants contacted our lawyer. She admitted she had been told to backdate paperwork and send emails pretending to be me. She had kept copies because she felt something wasn't right. Those copies became the final missing piece. Now the truth wasn't based on one person's story. It was supported by documents, records, and witnesses. Justice was no longer a hope. It was getting closer every day. Chapter 13 The Invitation. A week later, I received surprising news. Ryan's company was hosting a large event to celebrate its success. Local business owners, clients, and community leaders would be there. He planned to present himself as a self-made entrepreneur. He had no idea what was about to happen. My lawyer looked at me and smiled. "Let him celebrate." I raised an eyebrow. "You don't stop someone who's walking straight into the consequences of their own actions." A few days later, another message arrived on my phone. This time it wasn't a threat. It was an invitation to attend the event. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Months ago, I had lost everything. Now, I was about to walk into the same room as the people who had betrayed me. With the truth finally on my side. Justice finally arrived. Chapter 14 The night everything changed. The evening of Ryan's celebration finally arrived. The event was held in a beautiful hotel ballroom. Bright lights, expensive decorations, and smiling faces filled the room. People laughed, shook hands, and congratulated Ryan on what they believed was his incredible success. As I walked through the entrance, several conversations suddenly stopped. Some people recognized me. A few looked surprised. Others looked uncomfortable. Ryan noticed me almost immediately. For a second, the smile disappeared from his face. Then he forced another one. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said. "I know," I replied calmly. "But I think it's time we finished what you started." He laughed nervously. "I have no idea what you're talking about." I simply smiled. "You will." Chapter 15 The truth speaks for itself. A few minutes later, Ryan stepped onto the stage. He thanked everyone for supporting his business. He talked about hard work. He talked about honesty. Every word felt like another lie. Then, just as he was about to finish, the event organizer walked over to him and quietly whispered something in his ear. His confident expression vanished. The organizer then invited another guest to the stage. My lawyer. The room fell completely silent. He introduced himself and politely explained that important business documents needed to be discussed before the event continued. No shouting, no accusations, just facts. Large screens behind the stage displayed timelines, financial records, email logs, and document histories. Every piece of evidence connected perfectly. The audience watched in complete silence. Some people looked at Ryan. Others looked at me. No one spoke. Ryan tried to interrupt. "This isn't true." My lawyer calmly held up another document. "It contains your digital approval and the original file history." Ryan's face turned pale. Then came the witness statements. Former employees explained how they had been instructed to send messages using my name. One assistant admitted she had been asked to change dates on paperwork. She had saved copies because she feared something wasn't right. Every new statement made the truth impossible to deny. Chapter 16, the person who couldn't hide anymore. Then Emily stood up. For a moment, everyone looked at her. She slowly walked toward the stage. Tears filled her eyes. "I need to say something." The room became completely still. She admitted that she had ignored the warning signs because she believed Ryan's promises. She confessed that she had trusted the wrong person and stayed silent when she should have asked questions. "I convinced myself everything would work out," she said. "But silence can hurt people just as much as lies." She turned toward me. "I'm sorry. Months earlier, those words were all I wanted to hear. Now, they didn't erase what had happened. Some wounds heal, others simply become part of your story." I nodded politely. "Nothing more. Forgiveness doesn't always mean going back. Sometimes it simply means choosing not to carry the anger anymore." Chapter 17, Justice arrives. In the weeks that followed, the investigation reached its conclusion. The evidence spoke for itself. The money trail, digital records, witness statements, and financial documents all pointed in the same direction. My name was officially cleared. Clients who had believed the rumors began calling me again. Several apologized. I should have asked before believing what I heard. Friends who had disappeared reached out. Some admitted they had judged me too quickly. Mr. Harris smiled when he heard the news. "I told you that character always shows itself." One by one, former clients returned. Not because I begged them. Because trust had finally been restored. Months later, I opened a new renovation company. This time, every agreement required transparency. Every account had safeguards. Every important decision had more than one set of eyes reviewing it. The experience had changed me. Not into someone who trusted no one, but into someone who understood that trust should be earned, not blindly given. Chapter 18, what I learned. People often ask me if revenge made me happy. The answer surprises them. It wasn't revenge that gave me peace. It was justice. Revenge driven by anger only creates more pain. But truth, patience, and honesty have a way of reaching the surface, even if they take longer than we'd like. The people who took everything from me believed they had won because they had money, attention, and everyone's support. What they forgot was this. A lie can impress people for a little while. The truth can change everything for a lifetime. Today, my business is stronger than ever. My reputation is no longer built on what others say about me. It's built on what I do every single day. And every morning, when I unlock the office door, I'm reminded of one lesson I'll never forget. They took my business. They took my home. They even tried to take my name. But they could never take my integrity. And in the end, that was worth more than everything they stole. The end.